Hey everyone, it's Christina Holloway here. So my last video about how to spot a toxic work environment during a job interview was pretty popular. So I thought I'd follow that up with this video, which is about how to answer a tough interview question. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 job interview answers or techniques you can use during the interview when you answer this question. Why did you leave your last job? Now, there are a number of interview questions that can trip you up, but this one in particular should be handled with care, especially if you've recently been laid off or fired. There is a way to answer this question effectively, but it takes some skill. Real quick before we get started, please make sure to hit the notification button, hit the like button if you enjoy this content, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button. All right, so let's get started. Now, before we get into how to answer this question, we need to look at the real purpose of asking a question like this and why the interviewer would ask you about it. There are a number of factors here. Maybe there's a gap between jobs on your resume and the interviewer wants to know what happened. Or if you've been unemployed for a few months, that also will appear on your resume. And the interviewer will want to address it. What's the purpose? Understanding how you left. The focus isn't on the answer to the question. It's on the way you answer the question. Nervous, fumbling, vague, angry, unfiltered. These are all indicators to the interviewer that there's some history here. And we just don't need to give that much information, even if we aren't saying anything. Now, I've mentioned before that I've had bad jobs, and I've even been laid off before. It's not a pleasant experience at all, so I've had to answer this question before. It can stir up emotions, and you can find yourself saying all kinds of things you probably don't need to share during an interview. So here are 3 ways to answer this question without tipping your hand about how things went down. Number 1, use deflection. Now, this is a crafty way to give an answer but not actually answer the question, and it's probably a good technique to use if you happen to have been fired. Now, we're not talking about lying here. We're talking about acknowledging what happened, giving your reason, and then pivoting away from the topic quickly. Now, this advice actually comes from a Harvard Business Review article, and I'll put the link in the description below, but essentially, here's how it works. The research suggests that if you answer a question with a related question, the other person is more likely to feel obligated to answer that second question. Why? Because it's an interview, and you're both likely asking a lot of questions. So the interviewer is just as open to answering questions as you are. If you deflect with another question, the automatic response is to try to answer that question. Now, to successfully do this, you have to have enough awareness to deflect the difficult question and pivot the conversation away from that topic. Here's an example. So, why did you leave your last job? We mutually parted ways. In retrospect, I realized that there was an alignment between my expectations for the job and their expectations for my output. I'm much more interested in being a product manager and developing solutions that have direct impact on the client relationship. Would you like to hear about my volunteer experience in that area? Let's dissect this answer. You politely explain that the work relationship is over. You also showed that you're able to reflect on the experience and gain valuable insight. You then pivoted by explaining what you're looking for, and you asked if you could elaborate further on that topic. Well done. Number 2, highlight your adaptability. This technique works well if you're currently employed or you have a great job and the interviewer is curious why you would want to leave. This type of answer is intended to illustrate that you're leaving for a compelling reason, and that as long as you have an engaging and fulfilling job, you're less likely to continue to job hop. A great answer here would look like this. I've learned a lot since I first started in this field, especially related to management and communications. Over the past few months, however, I realized that I really wanted to stay in the innovation space. As a result, I found that my opportunities with my current employer have now become very limited. My goal is to continue to create agile solutions in this space, similar to the business model here, and that's what compelled me to reach out. Let's dissect. Again, you politely explain that you value the experience at your current job, and while that's valuable, it really isn't your passion. You also explain that you have limited opportunities if you stay with your current role, and you're excited to work in a new space that's in better alignment with your career goals. Good job. Number 3, keep looking forward. This works best if you were laid off, and it's probably going to be a popular option, mostly because a lot of people were laid off in 2020, and a lot of people are still looking for work in 2021. Here's what a good answer would look like. I was laid off 6 weeks ago. I do great work and was getting great performance reviews. I was even on track to meet my career objectives for the year. Unfortunately, the business wasn't able to stay ahead of the changing market or the pandemic or competition. While I really enjoyed working there, I know there's no going back. But I've stayed in touch with my colleagues, so when one recommended I apply for a job here, I jumped at the chance. This is a great response. You're able to explain that you were doing great work, and circumstances beyond your control have sidelined your career. You also indicated that you've stayed in touch with colleagues, illustrating no hard feelings, and that it resulted in a potential lead for new work. Good job. Okay, so we've talked about using 3 different techniques to handle the question, why did you leave your last job? And depending on the circumstance, you have a number of options available to you to successfully navigate this question. So what's the last thing you need to do? Practice. Like I mentioned at the beginning, any one of these answers takes skill. You really need to practice giving these answers so they feel second nature. And if you've been fired or laid off, it's especially important that you're able to deliver these answers with real confidence. Getting let go from a job, especially one you really liked, carries emotion with it. You might feel hurt or angry or resentful or just sad about it. But if you're in the process of looking for a new job, do everything you can to leave those feelings at home. Stay positive, be thoughtful and introspective, and make sure you communicate that even if you've taken a hit, you have resilience and are optimistic for what the future holds. Seriously, you may not feel that way in the moment, but the more you can communicate that you're eager to try new things, the more likely you'll be to get an offer. And that's it for this video on how to answer the job interview question, why did you leave your last job? This video was all about answering the question with confidence, no matter which circumstance led you to leave your previous job. Now, if you want to learn more about developing and building a successful career through a strong personal brand, then take the time to download my free ebook called The Perfect Fit. I've included it in the description below. Just a reminder that if you like this video and you want to see more content that will help you build an effective leadership brand as you climb that ladder of success, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a helpful tip from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!